What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the FN Story. We're changing gears a little bit, going back to one of the OG creators. You guys have probably seen his work, used it, done a bunch of different things, completed a bunch of different challenges because of the man right here. SquatingDog, how's it going, bro?
What is up? I'm stoked to be here. Thanks for having me.
Of course. Thanks for joining. And my first memory was going on Reddit and seeing one of your maps and being able to like actually complete challenges. Now there's way too many challenges to get through for me to even care about. But why did you even decide to start like doing stuff like that?
That's a great question. Honestly, like back in that day, there was just like it was the Wild West, dude. Like nobody knew what was going on, and still to this day it carries up in terms of storyline. But like most of the most players were like, "What is a battle pass?" Because they I think Epic Games curated that idea in some respects of like creating something that is progressive over time that causes players to come back. And so I think a lot of players were just really confused. And I have a design background, and I back in the day loved playing Super Mario 64. It was like where you would collect battle stars, not battle stars, but stars. And I had this massive book. I remember as a kid, like where I would peel it back and like look for these things like religiously because I wanted to beat the game 100%. So I have like a little bit of completionist inside of me as well. And so when I started playing Fortnite and they started releasing these secrets that were around and players were on the Reddit like, what is a battle star, And I was like, you know what? I think I'm going to put a guide together, like a cheat sheet, because I want to complete everything, and I know others will too. So I started putting these little sheets together, and I had no clue, like, at the impact that they would have on the community. And so that's kind of my upbringing. That's how I started. That's how I got into the Fortnite community, and that's how I started to getting to know people in this community. And the rest is kind of history.
Yeah, it's awesome because you launched into like a big creator. You're now one of the more notable creators in Fortnite, which is cool to see you go from posting challenge maps on Reddit to now like you ask most people, they know who you are, you create content, you create maps. There's a lot of different aspects of the game that you've jumped into. So credit to you. I really respect what you've done because it's awesome. Also, just for like my own personal understanding, how the heck did you get those done so quickly? Because like by the time I would wake up, and I'm normally a person that would wake up pretty early when the challenges would come out, how did you get them like completed and out almost in a heartbeat?
What's crazy is I'm in the West Coast. When an update goes live, it would go live around like 2 a.m. or 3 a.m. For the last probably 4 years, I have gotten up every like Thursday or Tuesday or whenever the update is. I would get up an hour before, look at leaks from leakers that have like looked through the map already, try to figure out what assets I would need to curate to be able to put pins together. So for that first hour, we're talking 1 a.m., I'm designing pins that I think are going to correspond with like that cheat sheet. And then it goes live, and I am out there on the field trying to complete the challenges as quick as humanly possible so that I have the exact coordinates of where these things are. And I wouldn't actually complete them because if you picked up, let's say there's like find 7 gnomes, but there's 21 gnome spots. The moment that I pick up number 7, I then can't see gnomes anymore on the map. So I can't even complete the challenges. I have to somewhat complete the challenges. So I would do them very, very, very quickly. And posting on Reddit is actually a unique, it's a curse and a gift because people are very opinionated and will share very honestly with you. It's not like they're not following you. They're like, you're a part of our sub. That's kind of the mentality. Yeah. And so if you post anything incorrectly, you just get destroyed. And so all of my content's been like built in that furnace. So it's been polished to nobody's extent. So that's been my process for the past like 4 or 5 years, is just like getting in on the ground level and making that happen. And nowadays it's a little bit easier. I have an app in the App Store called SquatingDog for Fortnite. It does the same thing. It essentially helps you find everything that you're looking for, but it's in an interface that is much more enjoyable and palatable for players. So you can just have it on your phone and you can zoom in on what you're looking for, click on it, complete it on your phone as well. So that's been more of where we've been moving all of these things from, which has changed a little bit of like the hype and the nostalgia of these maps, but it's way more helpful as a tool.
Yeah, I would imagine so. I mean, even anything you could use on your phone, especially because most people playing probably don't have multiple screens like we do.
Right.
So you need somewhere to be able to look at it and not tap out. If you're playing on a console, heck, you can't be going on Reddit anyway. So you need some experience. That's cool. So app, OG to then kind of big creator doing maps as well. And let's talk about the OG season, because for me, it's been so nice. The game feels really fresh and like clean to play. I feel like the last few seasons, the game hasn't really felt like crisp. I don't know if you felt this, but it always seems like there's some little performance issues that limits how the game feels. And this season, coming back to the OG, I mean, we just had another update this morning going to season 6, but it feels great. Like, I love playing the game, and I've had a bunch of people reach out to me that I used to play with like years ago. Like, yo, what is Fortnite OG? I want to play. And I'm sure you've played, but like, what are your thoughts on how the season's going? And did you think this would work?
Yeah. So, I mean, yes, obviously it will work. Nostalgia and Fortnite are hand in hand. I think like Epic flirts with nostalgia constantly, right? Like whether or not Tilted's going to be blown up was a concept in chapter 1 that was like flirted with the entire time until they decided to actually blow it up. And then there was this epic, community appeal. So Epic does a good job of like listening, but not necessarily delivering. They deliver it in a very particular way, right? Like it's very unique in when they did this. And I don't think it was ever, Donald's big plan, Donald Mustard's plan to come back. This is like outside of, I think, Donald's vision, which is interesting. But you can see the impact, I think, of to like the way I articulate it is most likely everyone that we've kind of interacted with online or whatnot has played Fortnite. Everybody listening to this podcast has played Fortnite. Most people have touched the game. The reason for their departure is going to be specific to them, but possibly because of just the skill set change that has happened. And so I think like when you say, hey, the glory days are back, without having context of what it is like anymore, you're coming back whether or not, you want to. And hopefully their systems carry those players a little bit more kindly than throwing them in with a sweat. They're going to probably be in a few bot lobbies, but they're going to be like, oh my gosh, I'm back on this island that I loved back then. Like, remember when we did that there? Remember when we did that there? Like, all of that's just going to be a euphoric experience for them. And I think that is a crucial element to why there are so many players. I think you can only do nostalgia for so long, though. And so that's where gameplay has to carry. That's where, like, items and the way that they're doing it, where it's like a season a week, where it's like there's a cadence, a speed, a delivery that's happening that's I think will keep us going to their bigger announcements, which I'm very excited for the future of Fortnite. But ultimately, I was kind of like saying, like, well, nostalgia doesn't always carry. But they're doing a great job in how they're delivering this. They're not just giving us the OG map and just sitting on it. They're giving us an evolution of the OG map that I think will constantly carry players. And that was the thing that I was mostly worried about, is like 6 million players playing this game at the same time is amazing. But like you could peak, like a lot of like our creative maps do this. They like peak really hard and then they die really hard. And so I'm hoping that Fortnite's plan of like the evolution of the map keeps players like, oh, planes, I forgot about planes, I gotta play that, I gotta play next week. Like, oh, like they just like this reoccurring element of coming back, I think is huge for them.
Yeah, I think that's a great way to re-implement this and not sit on this for like an unknown period of time. We all know this is short-lived. And so it's like, oh, I need to play before this goes away. And I think that piece of it is part of why we saw Fortnite peak at the most players it ever did last weekend, because everyone that has any idea what's going on within the game was like, well, I haven't played in a while, but I definitely want to check this out. And everyone
Yeah.
has that stage, that memory of like here at Dusty Divot with my boys, the OGs, we're playing the game and this happened, and I need to get them back on. And I would agree. I think they're doing it really well. I think if they tried to make this like a normal 3 month season, I don't know that it has the same
Yeah.
vibe afterwards. I think during it would go pretty well, but I think
Mhm.
afterwards people would be like, yeah, I don't know. The OG map wasn't really that great. And I think most people don't realize that. Like the way the game
Yeah.
is now, the OG map is not made for current Fortnite, but it works
Yeah.
a week at a time.
I love seeing the clips of people trying to swim like in the outer rim of the water. They're like, yeah, I could just jump in this, and then they die. Like there's people that are like go into Loot Lake and they're like, yeah, I could probably navigate this, and they're walking so slow. There's just like, yeah, we've evolved from this point, and I think that that's like another thing that maybe Fortnite's trying to do is like, all right, you want the old map back? Here you go. I don't know if you remember these things, but we're not going to spend 4 months on this. We're going to give you 1 month of your glory days so that you can like have that taste in your mouth of like, oh yeah, when I use this AR, the bullets don't even go in the direction I'm aiming it. Like there's just some weapons that were like, oh, thank goodness that we have this, the red dot now or whatever. So I do think like they're doing it right. I think players are going to have an appreciation for where we've come to, while still having a lot of fun. And I think that that's ultimately the plan with doing this a month is like, let's just give players a lot of fun in a nostalgic way, and let's show them what we have planned. More importantly, and I think that that's the goal. Is like they're trying to capture a lot of players to come back and then deliver them. Hey, do you know what we're doing with Lego? Hey, do you know what we're doing with racing? Hey, do you know what we're doing this new chapter? Like they want to deliver these new ideas, so that if you're a player that like goes, oh wait, Fortnite's more than just a BR. Like that concept isn't very regular for a lot of people, and Epic is trying tirelessly to communicate that. Obviously, I think creative isn't necessarily the best way to do that because they aren't broadly showing off those experiences. They're mostly just keeping experiences that have been there consistently over time. And so it's hard to be able to show like, oh yeah, it's an open world thing when they don't have any open world thing in creative. So I think like it coming from them will be important, but also them moving us in that direction. A lot of creators are going to be excited to then have the ability to build accordingly. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
the launch of next season will be just as important to see if you can translate these players that are going to play for the
Yeah.
OG into more than just coming on, playing a couple times this month, and then going back to whatever they normally do. And I'll be interested to see how it turns out. We both know the start of the season will be huge.
Hmm.
Fortnite typically booms at the start of every chapter, every season.
Yeah.
Some more than others, but I would love to see them be able to capture it. And I think now more than ever, they have that onboarding process of, hey, here's zero builds if you want to play. Hey, you can play against a bunch of bots. Hey, here's unranked. Here's ranked if you want to try something similar, but
Hmm.
maybe a little more difficult. So there's more than just jumping in like you used to and getting dumped
Yeah.
on if you run into, let's say a pro player that happens to wind up being in your lobby. So they've done a better job, and I'm interested to see the creative part you mentioned. I'm really curious because that's something I've been spending my time on learning recently. I know you've put
Yeah.
out a few maps, but they have so many awesome experiences, and I feel like they just
Uh-huh.
get buried. And
Yep.
then every once in a while, like the Only Up, that craze
Uh-huh.
wasn't even anything spectacular, but everyone wanted to play it. And I think at the same time, it shows the amazing isn't always intricate, right? Sometimes
Right. Right.
simple is what it is, and that's what this OG season is. But what has your experience been in general with creative making maps? Do you work with a team? Is it you? You seem like a guy that puts a lot on your shoulders. So, what
I
do you?
am that guy. Yeah. So, um, my whole thought with creative is just like, okay, like they're paying people to create like that. It's not just like a like let's do this in my free time. Like no, like it's they want to be a platform. Like I think that's crucial to realize. Is like Epic Games wants to be more of a platform than a BR, like way more. And so, in order for that to happen, a lot of things need to happen. One, they need to figure out their mobile situation because, like, mobile devices were a huge part of the plan. And I know that got sidetracked with Apple, but like, they're when you create an experience, you have to keep all players in mind, you know? And a lot of kids, you know, are on their mobile devices and they're wanting to play wherever they can play. And so I think like when we're building these experiences, you know, if a kid's playing on their mobile device and they're playing a really silly game like Flappy Bird or something, and they love it, you know, they love that game. Like, and if you can curate a Flappy Bird vibe inside of Fortnite and it's accessible and easy to play, just as much as it is to pull up one app, you can pull up Fortnite and pull up your favorite map. If you can play that same way, like there's a value there, a huge value. Because you're bringing people to the game, and I think that that's ultimately what Fortnite wants. Is like instead of them convincing you, like, "Hey, here's an OG season, you should come back." Hey, we got rid of that weapon you don't like. Please come back. You know, they want you to come back. They want you to play. But if that power shifts into creators' hands, where you know your favorite content creator, Nick A30, stops playing Fortnite for Rockstar or something, and all of the players go with them because they love him so much. But if that guy comes back and is like, hey, I made something really incredible. I really didn't like how there wasn't enough, I don't know, thrones in the game, and I am the king. So if you want to come and play my map, come check it out. Now that power shifts, right? Like the content creators are the ones that are bringing new people to the game. Ultimately, that's what you as like a business, like as YouTube, you know, you want more people to utilize that tool. And so I think like that is where Epic it wants it themselves to be, you know, like not just a BR, you know, but as it's like this full on like platform. I think like when that shift is starting to happen, I want to be on the cusp of it. So when UEFN came out, I was like, I'm going to dive in. I'm going to really understand this. Not only do I want to understand it, but I want to push the boundaries. And it feels kind of like early App Store days where like big companies create an app, but also like these little indie guys are like, hey, I can do it too. And then there's you're creating really awesome things. And for me, like I've always been a massive creative person. Like I can't shut off my brain. And so like I've had worlds stuck in my head for like a long time. Like I played Fortnite for a long time and I'm like, oh, there's just so much better ways to do this. And like, you know, you start to kind of bellyache a little bit, but now it's like, well, put your money where your mouth is, like make it. And so now it's been really fun for me to be like, okay, like I'm going to curate and build this world. And so ultimately what I've been doing over the past like 6 months, 8 is building to learn. So like, what happens when I build an experience and players join that experience? Do my animations work? Does it screw up the game? Like, in what capacity happens? And so every map that I've curated isn't like I'm going for the top charts. It's more of like I'm building this to learn something very specific because I want to build. I want to build all of those building blocks up to something that I really care about. And so this whole process has been wild. I recently got picked up by a team. This isn't public, so shh, don't tell anyone.
You just told everyone.
but like we're building a team that is trying to curate experiences that compete with Fortnite, you know, themselves rather than discovery. Like we want to build an experience that players love. I can't go into deep about that, but like that is what I have planned and what I'm excited about is curating the next generation of what Fortnite looks like. I want to be on the cusp of that at all times, and I'm trying to put myself and surround myself with the right people and the right minds that also want to accomplish those goals.
That's awesome. And congratulations on joining a
Thank
team.
you. Thank you.
That's important to be able to work with people because then you get more done, and working with people is not always easy, but if you can
Yeah.
make it work, it's awesome. It's also, I feel like, more fulfilling to work with others than it is to work with yourself. And I'm someone that struggles to do that. I feel like I struggle to delegate responsibility and properly manage stuff. So uh, I like doing it, but also at the same time, I don't, because I like doing everything on my own, and it works
Yeah.
out sometimes. But going back to the creative side, I'm like you, but like a month and a half in. So I've
Sure.
been building these smaller, like I built a 1v1, then I built a slightly more complex box fight map, and now I'm building just a fun, not anything to do with competitive. Like that's my background, but I want to go competitive map, kind of a more fun map, competitive, and then bounce those off of each other so that I have the, just like you, the building blocks to then create whatever the
Right.
heck I want. And I think that's the really cool thing about UEFN. I was hesitant about it, and actually, Immature Gamer was the one that was like kicking me. It's like, dude, just do it. Do it.
Yeah,
Like,
for
stop
sure.
telling me that you want to do something else. Learn how to do this. And the tools to just get started are awesome. And then it's
Yep.
like limitless as to where you want to go from there. There are, granted, like some boundaries that you'll hit based on
Oh yeah.
what you want to do. I have this idea. I'm sure if you guys have listened to the podcast before, you've heard me spout out what I want in a creative map. But Lord of the Rings, the Battle of Helm's Deep, I would
Wow.
love to see like that created in Fortnite. And like currently the UI, or not the UI, the AI for the like NPCs or zombies isn't
Yeah.
good enough for that to work. You can't like trace them in the right paths, but one day it
Oh
will
yeah.
be created, and I'm super excited for that.
Well, and it's what's interesting is like UEFN is just Unreal Editor, but like toddler style, you know? Like it's like it's dumbed down from a program already. So if you look at like what Unreal is capable of, and you know, a majority of game companies are using Unreal, and you know, film and all sorts of like companies, like not even just in our medium, but the reality is if you're able to create an awesome Spider-Man game or whatever, like in Unreal, that'll eventually translate, right? Like eventually the two are just moving very slowly towards each other, and so that's why I thought like being a part of a team is really wise because you can be an expert, and you know this, like you can be an expert in one thing and you can try to be an expert in another thing and you can try it. And that's my problem is I want to just learn everything, and that's to my deficit because time then becomes my worst enemy. Like I just can't physically curate the things that I want to because I'm like, ooh, no, you didn't get that animation right, let me help you, blah 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 blah. Like I can't be that way. I'm gonna have to eventually decide, all right, where do I want to camp? And then how do I surround myself with people that also kind of have those same like lines? Like they're like, yeah, I'm really good at the like verse side, you know? I'm not that way. And so if I can find somebody who is like, no, I'm into this, like I can really make some cool stuff. Now we're in a, you know, symbiotic like friendship that can really cause some impact. And so I think as Unreal starts coming closer and UEFNs, we start growing in those skills. Eventually, it'll do this, and then stuff like Lord of the Rings is simple, right? Like in the sense of what you're capable of doing. And now it's all about can you do it, right? Like do you have the skills? Have you placed yourself in enough opportunities to be able to make something like that? And I think like those days are going to be really exciting. And I think like when we have those tools, Fortnite will not look like Fortnite at all. Like it'll be completely changed. And I think we're probably, probably 5 years out from something like that exotic. So hopefully, we haven't had an update in UEFN for a little while. So I'm like, where's that at? But yeah, so I agree. I think like, and you know what? I could aesthetically probably create that Helm's Deep for you right now. But if you wanted to have like true like players, NPCs, and all that stuff, like doing the things that happen in that epic scene, like that'd probably be pretty difficult. But if you made it a BR map, like a little or like a drop map or whatever, like you can change how you look at that and then make those assets. And then when new updates come, you transform that map over time, which I think is also a really cool way to look at it. So maybe the goal is build the map, make it look the way you want it, and then make it to where, you drop on one side or the other. It's like red versus blue, except Helm's Deep. And then, like, go from there. Like, you give people swords. That doesn't work. Okay, you give them guns, and you're like, that's kind of weird. Like, you can make those tweaks over time, and then a new device comes out, and you're like, oh, I can actually make a song. I can make the Helm's Deep, like, full, audio clip of that. And so I think, like, it evolves over time, and I'm excited to see your journey. I'm excited for creatives to be creative. And I think, like, this is such a great in right now for people to jump in. And I'm glad you took that dive.
Yeah, that's cool. That's a way I didn't think about it, because I have built out like the wall, the keep
Cool.
is there, and like the main island terrain has been created. I just
Nice.
have stopped there because I'm like, I can't do what I want to do. So why continue to like tease myself when I can't actually play what I want to play? But that's a really good idea. Is just implement some kind of like team deathmatch, free for all, some gun game on the map, so that way people can just play it. And then once I get the tools, just be like, I already have this map. Just throw in the zombies or whatever. Maybe they're actual. I can create orcs and throw them running at a wall. That would be really cool. Thank you for that idea.
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, I think like one thing that's really crucial in creating in creative is that if you have the mentality, I can't do that yet, you will stop more than you will build. Because the reality is there's tons of things that cause headaches, cause problems, cause issues. And so there are tools to fix some of those things over time, and there aren't tools to do that. And I think the reality is getting creative enough to make something work, right? So like I'm interested in your map because I'm like, oh, well, you could blow up the bottom and do a cool animation, and that could be a trigger that happens inside of the game, and that's doable. You can make an orc and like have him just be like, he probably won't be as smart given the tools, but you can have him animate and swing, and if any players are near that orc, they just get like batted across the map. Like you can create these types, like an environment that feels like Lord of the Rings without it being the full experience. But as it grows, as our tools grow, so does that landscape. It's kind of like painting. Like when you paint something, sometimes painters will return to it. They'll be like, I want that. And they'll rehash it out. And I think like that's ultimately what you can do too, which will be really cool to see over time.
All right, that's my next piece that I'm working on then.
Let's go, bro.
Yeah, that'll be fun. My map coming out. It should be out today if I have time to complete it. All I need to do is the pre-game lobby left. But back in Halo 3 Forge days, do you play Halo back in the day?
Oh yeah.
There was a map on the side of one of the maps, and you played with like warthogs and ghosts.
Yeah.
And you had to knock everybody off, and it was the last man standing on that platform. So that's what I built, but like in my own island, and that should be coming out hopefully by the time this thing is dropped. But that was like the next stage, and maybe I skipped the competitive map after this one, just go straight to making a free-for-all or gun game in Helm's Deep.
Helm's Deep. I did a one just recently from Zanzibar. Do you remember that map? The
sand
Halo,
one?
It's a big fan blade, a massive fan blade
yeah.
on the beach.
Yep.
Yeah, you remember that guy?
Yeah, there's like an indoor part, and then you have that wall, and then the beach, and the blade's like right in the middle, right?
Yep.
Okay.
I recreated that and made it kind of like an infection map. So like when I played old Halo 2 days, it would be like when you can like sword cancel and like fly across like with your sword. We played infection where like there was humans and they can only use human weapons, and then the infected used the blades and tried to eliminate people. And so I pretty much recreated a style of that for players. And yeah, it's crazy what you can create right now. It's absolutely insane. And if you're listening to this right now and you're like, wow, I'm kind of inspired, like just mess with the tools. Like it's pretty wild. You can import assets, you can import things and have fun, like trying out experiences. But ultimately, the more people that try to create fun experiences, the better Fortnite will become over time.
Yeah, and I think the biggest barrier to anyone, including myself at the time, was I don't want to have to learn this whole brand new thing. But
Yeah.
Fortnite has like it's called First Hour in UEFN, and that is like a great base to just start to understand how
Yeah.
to even make like a 1v1 map, and then like both of us just mentioned, build off of that. Start somewhere and continue to be able to build it out, and then eventually
Yeah.
you'll be able to do whatever the hell you want and create some awesome stuff. But I'm with you. I mean, I years ago have said that creative is going to be the future of Fortnite. It seems like
Yeah.
comp is carrying it at the moment, but also creators are coming back, and creators are now at the top of, like, if there's a bar graph of where everything is, it seemed like
Yeah.
competitive peaked with the event at FNCS, and then now creators are peaking, and they're kind of like mixing the two. And I know Epic wants competitive to work because those are
Yeah.
players that continue to play the game. It only makes sense to try and build something that players will continually come back to. But
Yeah.
creative one day will be like, there'll be creators, competitive, and then creative is like not even close to anybody playing the traditional BR.
Yeah.
But I
Oh,
say that
100%. 100%. It's interesting, like, if you look at just like how long we've been playing Battle Royale. Like, it's kind of exhausting at this point. Like, we've been playing it for a while, and it's funny that that's like still one of the highest watched like types of game. Like, there's something about this, like, there's 100 players and I'm the one person that made it out. Like, there are little innovation points that have happened over the past 5 years. And so I'm really, I think this is my hypothesis. I think as people start getting better with these tools, we're gonna stumble across a new way to play. Like, you see this with mods a lot, right? Like, Warcraft had a mod that created League of Legends. Like, we see this happen in this type of space all the time. Like, it's very, very frequent. And so Fortnite kind of hasn't had it. I think Only Up was its first expression of something like that.
Yep.
But I'm pretty sure we're going to get to a point where, like, someone's going to have a formula and implement it, and it's just going to change how we play. And we haven't seen that over the past few years because creative hasn't been at a place where the tools are helpful enough to do that. And I think we're getting to a place where we're getting closer. And I do think, like, within the next 2 years, 3 years, Fortnite will be like, all right, here's our next BR. And then somebody will create something and everyone will play that instead. And then Fortnite will be like, cool. Like, that's part of the plan. So, like, great. You know, like, I'm curious of when that happens and what it'll be, but it'll be something for sure.
Yeah, I am a big believer in that as well. Still, from time to time, will go back and play Halo 3 custom games. That's actually where the Helm's Deep inspiration comes from. Someone created a custom game in there. But yeah, being able to see someone create an entirely new game mode that had not been created, like that 5v5 MOBA, in a game that traditionally is not played at all that way. And BR is cool. And now we're starting to see like extraction BRs and all these other kind of like spin-offs, but ultimately someone is going to push BR to the next level, and it's probably not going to be anything any of us see. I mean, maybe heck, one of us will be the one that stumble upon it.
I'm gonna do it, bro. I'm gonna be there.
Yeah,
I'm putting out that energy. I truly think, like, creatives win in these types of situations. Creatives win, and so if you're creative, this is a great place. Just get involved, like, because there's so much opportunity. It's ridiculous how much opportunity there is, and everybody's kind of at this state where, like, we're all learning together. So we're kind of in it together. We're all going through getting our maps, like, trying to get them approved, and they're all failing together. Like, we're all doing these things and learning from each other. Like, Epic actually hasn't done the best of job of housing all of the frustrations in-house with their forums. They haven't done a good job of, like, giving us feedback of why things are broken. And so what that creates is a community outside of Epic Games in Twitter DMs and online where we're all trying to figure out our frustrations together. And so it's creating really incredible bonds and really incredible opportunities too, to, like, interact with people that are really talented. And so now's kind of the time, like, because we'll all look back on, like, these few, like, this year and a half, 2 years of just, like, remember when, remember when this was a thing? Because we went through it together. And I think like that's a crucial element to creatives, is to be around creatives and be inspired by each other. And so like, even in this conversation, like I would hope that this conversation inspired you to like, all right, I'm going to actually, do this. Your conversation with Immature Gamer got you in on it. Like, so I think like that's the type of energy that kind of like it's this snowball effect of like really, really helpful ways to grow yourself and learn more, and also collaborate in really cool ways.
Yeah, I think it's awesome. Like the community Fortnite has built has been able to create friendships, create partnerships, working relationships, a bunch of different things that I don't think anyone expected. I mean, Fortnite heck has become the biggest game in the world and has stayed that way for years now, and so many people have created a career out of literally a single video game, which beforehand was pretty much unheard of unless you were like one of the top esports players in that game or like one of the top creators. The
Yeah.
ecosystem is amazing right now. I would love, so you've created a good bit of maps. I would love to like
Yeah.
understand what is the one you're most proud of, what is your favorite one that you've actually been able to play, and then what is the one that has been like the biggest headache.
That's great. Um, Fortnopoly is probably the one I'm most proud of. The idea of Fortnopoly is to take a twist on the pit. So the pit map, super popular. A lot of kids just like the mindless, like, and simpleness of it, where it's just like, I know there's going to be players. I'm going to drop on them. I'm going to fight them. I thought, well, how can we creatively do this? And so I designed a map where it's Monopoly inspired. So there's a board that you're on, and then instead of the centerpiece being flat like all of the other pieces, it's actually dropped down. So
Okay.
it's a pit, and then you have gold. So you can drop down there. You start off with like really bad weapons, just gray weapons, and when you eliminate somebody, you get gold. And so over time, you can use that gold by dancing on any of the outside, like let's say Park Place.
Okay.
If you dance on it, you could flood the map. Or if you
Hmm.
dance on it, the lava walls start coming in. You can dance on it and it turns into builds mode. You can dance on it and it turns into zero builds. You can dance it, change the entire environment of where you're fighting inside of the pit. It changes everything as you go. So I have this parking place one, where if you dance on the parking place, cars start falling out of the sky and blowing up inside of the arena. So I just wanted to give players the ability to change how they play the pit, like influence it. So you could like put people in jail. So you can like do the jail one, and then there's this massive wall, and it just eats people up if they're down there, and they have to run from the wall while they're still battling and 1v1ing or whatever. So it creates like all of these experiences that players aren't, like, they have to be adaptable, and it's so fun. It's so fun. But it's a little too complicated for where we're at with players. Like I mentioned, simplicity, and I think that is like, if you can find an idea that also has a simplistic element to it, those are going to just do better, because some kids don't have the time to, or don't care to read anything. And so if they can figure it out intuitively, that's always going to be your best bet. So that's the one I'm most proud of. I spent the most energy on, and I think like actually plays really fun. So if you have a group of friends and you're like, oh, I want to try that, like, give it a go. I think you'll have a blast with it. So you said most proud of the one that was the most pain in the butt, and then what was the third one?
The one you like to play the most yourself.
Oh, I love playing my OG Rats or Fart Night. Both of them are built off of. Are you a Counter Strike fan at all? Did you ever play Counter
No,
Strike?
not in ours.
Okay.
But I understand the game.
Yeah, so back when Counter Strike gave these types of tools to players, they created a map called Rats, and the idea is you're as small as a rat, and so you're in a massive. Instead of dropping, on an island, you're dropping in a house or whatever, right? So like my little BR is like this. You drop out of the fan from the ceiling and you fly into a home, and it's populated by rats. So like what does it look like from that perspective in a rat's world? And so I'm essentially I've curated this. That was my original map. It's done. It's gotten a million million plus plays. People love it. It's really beloved. It's my first project. I'm like, I love it. So I play that a lot because it's just like endearing to me. Like it shows me where I started. I animated my first duck there, and it looks pathetic now. So it's just like there's all of these things. I'm like, I love this thing. So I've been like doing seasonal stuff with it. So I have a Halloween one out right now, and then I'm going to transition that to Christmas. I've got that update coming soon. And then Fortnite is the same thing except in a bathroom. So like you can go into the sewers and into the toilets and like down the shower and like in the bathtub. You can shoot the bathtub handle so the water drains, and you can go down the drain. Like it's super involved in terms of like movement, but it's a gun game. So it's like you're playing with really good weapons, and then you get worse weapons over time. So you're like progressing in that way, where it's like instead of just like to complete it, it's like no, you can play infinitely. But the idea is you're just getting worse and worse weapons, giving yourself a harder time to actually eliminate people. So those are probably the ones that like I play the most. And the one that's caused the most pain has actually been the one that I just released. It's called Infected. It's the Zanzibar map I was talking about, because I was trying to create an infected game mode, and an infected game mode in Fortnite is kind of actually really difficult. The people that make prop hunts actually have a hard time too. It's similarly. But essentially what it is like when I eliminate you, I want you to be on my team now. And ironically enough, all of these tools are available in 1.0. Like you don't even need UEFN for this. But what's also interesting is the tools don't work. And this is the precipice of my frustration with UEFN. Is like if you use Photoshop and you select the paintbrush tool and you draw a stroke, that's going to happen. Like it would be very weird if you clicked the paintbrush tool and a hot dog appeared instead of that would not be okay. So like there are parts of UEFN that I don't know why and I don't know how, but like the perfectionist inside of me dies every time, where I say, hey, player one, I want you to be on a player one spawn. And then a player two spawns on it. I lose my shit. I don't know if we're sorry.
Go for it. It's not. Don't worry about
it. I lose it, bro. I'm like, what is going on? Like, this is like these aren't the rules. Like, who's designing these rules? So I've gone insane creating that map in particular because just the tools that I'm using that are supposed to work just don't. And so then I have to have somebody that is excellent at verse come in and kind of look at it and try to like force it to happen, which, is not my favorite. So I think like, yeah, that's probably where I'm at with it. But I am curious even for you, like what's the map that you're most proud of? That you've created so far. You said you've created 3, right?
Yeah, so there's an OG tilted 1v1. So basically just before even the nostalgia of this, I was like, I want to create a 1v1, but I want to do it differently than just like a simple plain 1v1 map.
Sure.
And so everyone used to go into tilted. There used to be little boxes. You'd leave all your materials, your weapons. So basically created that, but in creative, you got to pick your loadout anyway. So instead of like having to farm all this stuff, you just click what you want. Boom, it's populated. You got to play that. So that was kind of the first iteration of map making. My second one is called Push Box Fights. So it's like an offense versus defense. I tried now understanding the whole spawn perspective. I'll tell you about that in a second. But I made it a 1v1 box fight map where the storm pushes the offensive player forward and then the defensive player gets to back up a couple of boxes. So thinking of it like an end game where it's quick, like the map a minute per round, you don't have time, the storm's coming right away, you need to either push like the storm's coming at your back in an end game, or you can back up like you're on front side of the zone and you get a little bit of space to play from, and then eventually the zone closes. That's my favorite one because that's unique. It's a box fight map, but people have done that before, and I wanted to do something different than just a standard, hey, I'm putting out a box fight map to put out a box fight map. And then
Yeah.
when I tried to create a 2v2 version of that, I couldn't get the spawns to work. Like I
Mm,
just kept I tried multiple different ways. I tried having round settings to where they alternate, enabled, disabled, enabled, disabled. Doesn't want to work for some reason. And
yeah.
yeah, I just stuck with the 1v1. And then the new one is that kind of like derby style vehicle destruction that hopefully comes out today. So those are like the three. I think
Cool.
the box fight one is the one I'm most proud of, just because it's something new. I think it is like actually helpful to players to be able to practice.
Yeah.
And we're seeing a lot of like speed box fights and speed realistics, quick iterations of things. But this is the same thing, but with a slight twist to it that actually simulates what is going on within a game. And I have plans to upgrade that so like you get to play that in actual like areas of a map versus just in an enclosed box area. So
Yeah.
that's the one I've had the most fun with.
That's cool. I love it. It's wild like how many people have entered the space. I think like that's surprised me more than I yeah, would have imagined in the onset. Like, I think Cypher kind of jumping in and creating a full team, like, it was a huge kind of like, I'm a big creator. I see the future with this. I'm gonna invest in the future with this. And I think like that second part where it's like, no, I'm gonna participate. I'm not gonna let other people just do it and then decide if I want to. I think that's been the most like interesting to me is like I feel like a lot of people are like, well, if it's the future, like, why isn't it working? Like, so they kind of sit back and they're like, I'll wait and see this future you have in mind. And then there's people that are like, kind of can catch a glimpse of it and then participate. And I feel like I'm surprised at how many people are doing that. Like, that shows I think, level of content that will be coming eventually as these tools grow. But it's an exciting time to play Fortnite. Like I can only imagine what it would have been like. Like I mean, when we started this game, we didn't. No one had this vision. Nobody knew what could be capable of this. But now it's like crazy. Like if you really wanted to play a simulator, you can do that now. Like if you wanted to do a role playing thing, that's available. Like, and I think as players lose the stigma of Fortnite means BR, and we start to get into a stigma of Fortnite is a platform, I think when those shifts start happening in players' minds, it'll require some of these people that invested into this space to create some really incredible things. And I keep using Only Up as an example because it was kind of a phenomena for its time. Like, but I think like once we have more of those are on-current experiences where it's not like it happens every week, every 2 weeks, every month. Like what is the game to play inside of Fortnite? I think when that starts happening, that shift will then happen, and then all those naysayers are like, "Let me see your future." We'll be like, "Oh shoot, I'm late. I gotta get in on this." So it'll be interesting for
Yeah,
sure.
I don't know that. I mean, at least in my experience, I don't have many people that are like doubting Fortnite, but I also live in the competitive world where these are all people that are fully bought into the game and play way
Yeah,
more than your average player. So that's kind of a different mindset, but for Fortnite, just shout out to Epic Games for being able to create these tools easy enough for like anyone to understand.
yeah,
There's
yeah,
one thing where it's like, okay, you need to be a game developer to be able to create games, but at the same time, like someone like me who has zero coding experience can create unique experiences within Fortnite, and it makes it available for anyone. So it
yeah,
is amazing to see that kind of development of the UEFN tools and creative, and they've obviously continued to build those out and will continue to build those out. So it's cool to see. Now, would like to. This is typically competitive focus, so you did go
give
to
it to me.
the global
Hmm.
championships,
Yep.
and I just general thoughts. Like, as someone that attended the event, what was it like? What was your favorite parts?
Yeah. I mean, uh, it's crazy. Like these events are absolutely crazy. The energy is unlike, anything. Have you been to did you go to the World Cup at all?
Yeah, I went
Were
to
you
the World
there?
Cup and Invitational, and then I was not
Okay.
able to go to the most recent
Yeah.
one.
Yeah, so you get a grasp for probably what it was like, but like for those that haven't experienced an event like that, like it's wild because the energy of the audience dictates a lot of what like what's happening, right? So like the finals in particular, they gave wristbands that like light up when people get eliminated and stuff like that. It was like, so it like creates this, like you see red on your wristband and you're like, who got eliminated? And then you look at the screen, but like there's a roar that happens every time something goes down. And I think like that for me is really, really incredible. I've always had a hard time with how you broadcast competitive Fortnite. I think like, and this is maybe, I think like this is an important voice for competitive people to hear because uh, a majority of people are similar to me as like from a spectating standpoint. Like I'm just spectating it. I think like the hardest part for competitive is getting people interested from just watching. Like if they're going through Twitch and they click it and they don't know anything about Fortnite, it's really hard to be invested um, to somebody off the streets, which I think is a crucial element to drawing new audience and keeping that fresh and alive. But then also, if you are and you do know what's going on, I don't care about the people that you are showing me sometimes, right? Like I'm not there. Like, and that was what was interesting about this cup in particular. People were there for somebody, and when they got screen time, people were like freaking out, right? Like, and then they didn't do anything amazing. They were just got screen time. And
Yeah.
I think like that is the thing that I would advocate for Fortnite is to develop a technology where much like on the screen, and this is why it's such a fun spectating experience. On the screen, you have everybody's names up, and when they get eliminated, they get blacked out. And so when you're listening or watching a casting experience, if the caster says something, you might know they're out. Or if it's shown, you might know they're out. But there's people that are watching like clicks, 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 and they're trying to see if he's out or not because it's just a mess. And I think like the hard part about this is like because it's a mess. I'm just so surprised that Fortnite hasn't tried to make a system where you simply boot up Twitch, you go to the thing, and then you just put a list of the people that you care about from my favorite to least favorite. And then the cast still gives you the audio of what's going on in the game. Like it's the same cast, except your screen, you can advocate for the World Cup screen or like clicks. And so if I'm just there for clicks, I get to watch him through the entire experience. And then when he gets eliminated, it takes me to the World Cup and go, also, you also liked Booga. Would you like to click Booga? And you go, yeah, Booga. So then it narrows down. And I think if we had something like that, like the technology side of that, it would make going to a match just much like the one I went to, where it was like you get to see all this in real time. You get to see players kind of dip out. Like that is so much more exciting than watching it on Twitch. And I think like I hunger for that because I want competitive to succeed, but there are these cult followings that kind of carry a lot of the viewership. And I think if you gave that freedom to people that watch, when clicks goes out and I'm there for clicks and then I go, oh shoot, who's this guy, Seti? Like, and I can click on him, they now have a new fan, right? Because now I'm watching, whoa, he's like way more proficient at this. Like I didn't know. Who's this no name? Like I've never heard of this person. And like if you can put a little like this is who this person is, little bio vibe, and this is their Twitch and blah 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 blah. Like it would only benefit, I think, the whole ecosystem. So that's something I like am pretty passionate about. If you can't hear over the comms here, but I do think like because of like the complexity of 70 people in an end game in a very small zone, it's really hard to stick with the person that you care about And I feel like Fortnite has struggled in letting the audience know or understand these players. That's why we see these player bios. That's why we see like these video clips on their channel to kind of like advocate, like, this is who this person is. We're trying to tell this story, and the casters do a great job of doing that as well. But I do think like players just won't unless like they have the ability to kind of like navigate it for themselves. But
Yeah.
I don't know. What are your thoughts of that? I'm kind of curious because like I come from like a let's go. I want to watch my team. You know, like I love football. I love Arsenal. I want to watch them. Why are you showing me footage of something that I don't want to watch? I'm here for Arsenal. You know, like I'm curious of why that hasn't translated like really well into this space.
So I can answer some of the questions. I can't answer all of them because
Yeah,
I
yeah,
feel
yeah,
similarly in certain respects. So like me, big NFL fan, Jets fan. I live in North Carolina. Jets are almost, besides this year, because we had Aaron Rodgers, almost never on TV.
Yeah.
So like I always had to watch the local game, which makes me hate the Carolina Panthers because
Yep.
I'm forced to watch them. And besides like 2018, they've been terrible. So like for me, I really wish I could just like pull up whatever game I want, and thankfully YouTube has it, so I can do that, right? I can watch whoever, whatever game. And that similar experience I think would be awesome within Fortnite, where it's like I go to the watch.fortnite.com and I can literally click on whoever I want and follow their perspective. Now, the problem is the technology. There is a limitation on how many observers you could put into a game and still have decent performance. We saw on day one of Global Championships, they forced more observers in than had ever been in a game, and the performance was terrible. So it's like balancing how many perspectives you can get into a game and how many outputs you can actually show. Because even from a background perspective of observing, you're going to have 2 drones at least. You're going to have 1 map. So that's 3 people that aren't showing a perspective, and 9 is typically the most that you want to put into a game. So that's 6 POVs. And then so you got to cut that down to 4 because when you change, it takes some time to load. You got to make sure you're showing the right perspective. So you really can only, like, maybe it's an option, but you show 4 POVs at a time. And then you can click between those 4 POVs. Because right now that would be the best that they could do for this kind of like perspective switching. But ultimately, I would agree with you. I think it needs to happen. The observing tools need to get better to a point where you're able to do that. Because if you're a fan of someone, say you like some player who's having a terrible tournament, they may never show up on the screen. You may never see that person, and you may sit here for 2 hours. Probably not, because you're not going to sit here and continue to watch if you don't see the person you want to watch. But that is going to then limit the growth. And so on top of that, I've always thought, I believe it's League of Legends that does like a beginner broadcast, and then also like hey, here's advanced high level shit, and breaking down like why these players are so good versus like, hey, here's this person, they're building a box. The reason they're doing this is to protect themselves. They're trying to put themselves in a position that's high enough to see other players as they rotate. So like those 2 would be almost perfect to offer that option, not like force one broadcast to be both, because I don't think that works, because then you isolate both sides to where they're like some points they don't get, and you're going to talk about things and not understand what is going on. And then on the other side, the hardcore competitive fans are like, dude, I don't need you to tell me what Storm Surge is for the 15th time in a 3-hour broadcast. And I feel like that does happen, right? Is sometimes, unfortunately, it's like you just hammer something home way too many times, and it is what it is. So from my perspective as someone that analyzes the game, I would love to see those tools, because not only can I do a better job of explaining things, if I could literally go watch the perspective myself, I can bring new insights, new points, new value to a viewer. But also from just like a viewer's perspective, it would be so much better, because when I watch Fortnite, I don't like watching viewing parties because they jump from perspective to perspective to perspective. I
Yeah,
like to follow a single story of a player so that way I
fair.
can watch what's going on. That's me personally, and I'm sure I'm not the only one that wants to do that. And it's not specifically because I'm a fan of the player, but I like the continuity because Fortnite is not just like a simple game. Each stage of the game really matters. And then as you progress through these points, you get to see all these little boxes this person's checking off as we go through the game that then allows them to win or not win. And you get
Right.
to see where that fails. So that's that's my response to your
Yeah,
rant.
I like that. I like that a lot. I do think like Aussie Antics and what he's doing is like hitting a need that people have. And it's funny because like he's incredible at what he does, but also he hit a gold mine in some
Yeah.
respects because like Fortnite could have their own cast and it's like you're showing us everything professionally, which is awesome, but I'm not there for professional. I'm there for my person. Like ultimately.
Yeah.
And so a viewer then goes over to Ozzy and is like, "Hey, like how's so and so doing?" And then like he just goes in on that player and like listens to the audience themselves. Like, what do you guys want to see? What do I want to see? I'm going to inform what we all spectate together based off of that. Where I feel like in some of these really cool like World Cup experiences, it's like they're doing their best. Don't get me wrong. What it takes to do this is probably the most painful you could ever do in a broadcast. But like the ability to hone in on all of the action points is impossible because of what happens in a game. Like there's 100 players. And so why not just like let the player do that? Like the person that's watching. Like it just seems like if we could develop a technology where if you have all of the players already and they are already experiencing the game and have it in front of them, record that screen, throw it onto Twitch, work with YouTube, whatever. We have 100 screens and the broadcast 101, like, and a map and whatever. Like these are all of the things that we want a player to just go, I want to click here. I want to click here. I want to click here. I feel like that technology would kill it for a spectating experience. And I feel like that would advocate so much more for a player that doesn't know what's going on. You give them that main screen. You give them that Storm Surge talk 3 times, and like that's them. You give a person that like really really cares about specifics. You get Ozzy then on it, right? Like, and he's like talking about what he sees, and so there's different casts that you can engage with. And I feel like to be able to capture the beauty that is this BR, like it's going to take extra work, and Fortnite has that overhead. I just hope that one day we get to see something like that, because I do think I'm surprised at how little people are actually watching these events. Like I'm surprised, and typically speaking, they use like here's something that you can unlock, like in your game if you watch it. Like there's a lot of incentive programs, but I'm just surprised for how many players there are, how little we get in a cast. And I want that to expand. And I really, truly think it's based off of these players and like giving me the ability to experience what I want to experience out of it. But yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
Those are
I
my
hope
thoughts.
I hope that happens. And I think Aussie, genuinely, from someone that's on the broadcast, he does a better job of bringing in new viewers than the broadcast does,
Right.
because that interaction, like you just mentioned, if someone
Yep.
comes in and asks a question, they don't know what's going on, he's way more likely to answer that than us accidentally answering it
Right.
because we're going
Right.
to talk about it. So
Yeah.
that's a really good point. And I mean, I think Aussie's done a lot more for Fortnite than people understand,
Oh my
especially the
gosh.
competitive perspective.
Yeah.
He's him, and then Boop does it for like EU. There's several
Yep.
different people. Timmy out in OCE. There's like everyone kind of has their niche for the different tournaments, but super valuable. I really appreciate those guys doing that.
Yeah. Legends.
For you, I know you mentioned the team coming up next. Is there anything else, or not team? Yeah, you say you're joining a team.
Uh-huh.
Is there anything else that you kind of have going on that you may want to tease or share?
Yeah. I mean, obviously
with the stay tuned, like I can't say it's soon, but that we have plans and we're working towards those plans, and we are going to deliver something that you have not seen yet in the game, and I'm very excited about those things. That's what I can say. A lot of my attention will be directed towards that. So streams and other forms of content will slow a little bit, which is an unfortunate reality when you are like giving it your all towards something, when you have a vision that is very exciting. So there will be a lot of transition for me, but also there's a lot of really exciting things too. So like I still am operating the app. So if you're looking just to complete your stuff, do it quickly. I have a podcast as well called the Unvaulted Podcast, where we kind of try to look at every gear of Fortnite, like every kind of piece that makes it work, not just the competitive, not just creative, not just creators, but like all of the elements, and trying to put that together. So that's really fun. We're going to do our season review, which will be good. And then of course, like we're on Twitch as well, and and on Reddit. I'm actually, what's funny is like in 2019, I was the most followed Redditor underneath NASA and Arnold Schwarzenegger, and they gave us awards at Reddit, which is so funny. It's like, who follows anybody on Reddit? So it's such an insignificant detail, but I was like, I kind of love this. But yeah, so you can follow me on all platforms. I'd love to have a discourse. If you're looking to get involved with creative in any capacity, I am doing my best to support others that are also trying to do that, because it is overwhelming. It's like drinking from a fire hose at times. So yeah.
Very much so. Well, thank you for coming on, man. I really appreciate you sharing your time. Make sure you go check out him on X, SquatingDog for Fortnite, in the App Store, the Unvaulted Podcast, all that good stuff. You want to watch him stream on Twitch, SquatingDog as well. Thank you for your time. I really appreciate it, man.
Oh, yeah. No, it's a great conversation. Love this. And thank you for bringing me on in this environment. I hope that it was like really exciting for those that are listening.
And if you are listening, thank you guys. Appreciate you as well. I can't do it without you, even though I probably would. Just if I could talk to people, it'd be a lot of fun anyway. If you could leave a review on your favorite podcast platform, leave a comment down on YouTube, and look out for more from the 2023 competitive awards. We're going to be dropping some info soon if you guys want to catch that. It's Comp Awards FN on X or Twitter. Stay tuned because I got some big things planned. But thank you guys for listening, and we will see you next time. Peace.
Much love.